The sky over Syria on the night of September 22nd, 2014, was a canvas of deceptive stillness, a vacuum of silence hanging over the sprawl of Raqqa. Below, the self-proclaimed capital of the Islamic State pulsated with the confident, brutal energy of a terror group that had, in mere months, swept across the map like a black ink spill, dissolving borders and declaring a caliphate that defied the modern world. They believed they were untouchable, shielded by the complexities of a civil war and the hesitation of global powers. But the silence above was not empty. It was waiting. At high altitude, cruising in the thin, cold air where the curvature of the Earth becomes visible, a ghost was hunting. The F-22 Raptor, the most advanced air dominance fighter ever engineered, was flying its first ever combat sortie, invisible to radar, a shadow against the stars, leading a coalition of vengeance that was about to unleash a storm of precision fire that would change the nature of the war forever. This was the opening salvo of Operation Inherent Resolve, a campaign defined not by the boots on the ground, but by the devastating, relentless application of air power that would systematically dismantle the machinery of terror from the top down. The pilot of the Raptor sat encased in a cockpit that was less a machine and more a fusion of biological and digital consciousness, the helmet-mounted display feeding him a stream of data that synthesized the entire battle space into a single, lucid picture. For years, the F-22 had been a caged beast, a weapon so advanced and so expensive that politics had kept it sidelined, a thoroughbred kept in the stable while older warhorses bore the burden of combat. But tonight, the leash was cut. The mission was to blind the enemy, to strike at the command and control centers that directed the atrocities on the ground. As the weapon's bay doors snapped open, a brief interruption in the aircraft's seamless stealth profile. The GBU-32 direct attack munitions dropped into the slipstream, guided by GPS satellites to coordinates that had been verified and re-verified by intelligence analysts thousands of miles away. The impact was not just physical, it was psychological. The explosions that ripped through the ISIS command centers in Raqqa arrived without the warning scream of a jet engine or the blip on a radar screen. They simply happened, a sudden, divine wrath that signaled the end of ISIS's impunity. The Raptor had blooded its talons, proving that it was not just an air-to-air duelist, but a quarterback in the sky, using its unparalleled sensors to guide other aircraft, the F-15-16s, into the fight, weaving a net of surveillance and destruction that no insurgent force could escape. While the F-22 kicked down the door, the heavy lifting of the campaign fell to the workhorses, the jets that would fly sortie after sortie, day and night, turning the vast logistical network of the caliphate into a highway of scrap metal. Enter the F-15E Strike Eagle, a twin-engine beast of burden, capable of a staggering payload of ordnance over vast distances, loitering over the target area for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Strike Eagle crews, comprising a pilot and a weapons systems officer, became the hunters of the ISIS oil empire. The terror group was financing its genocide through the black market sale of oil, turning the refineries of eastern Syria into a cash cow that funded weapons, salaries, and propaganda. The coalition's strategy was ruthless and economic. Destroy the wallet, and you destroy the army. The F-15S descended upon the modular refineries and oil collection points with GBU-38s and laser-guided bombs, dissecting the industrial infrastructure with surgical precision. They didn't just carpet bomb. They picked specific distillation towers and separation units, rendering the facilities useless without causing catastrophic environmental damage or civilian casualties. A tightrope walk of modern warfare that relied on the steady hand of the WSO in the back seat and the unwavering reliability of the Strike Eagle platform. As the air campaign intensified, the landscape of the war shifted from strategic strikes on infrastructure to the desperate, muddy reality of close air support, where the lives of Kurdish and Iraqi fighters hung in the balance of a pilot's reflex. In the skies over Kobani and later Mosul, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the Viper, proved why it remained the backbone of the U.S. Air Force. Agile, versatile, and lethal, the F-16s dove into the chaotic canyons where friend and foe were separated by mere meters. The pilots, flying at breakneck speeds while pulling high Gs, had to interpret the frantic radio calls from Joint Terminal Attack Controllers, JTACs, on the ground. They dropped GBU-12 Pave-2 laser-guided bombs, weapons that rode a beam of light to their target, obliterating ISIS sniper nests and machine gun positions that were pinning down partner forces. The Viper pilots operated in a swirl of anti-aircraft fire, a constant threat of man-portable air defense systems, MANPADS, seeking the heat of their engines, yet they pressed their attacks with a discipline that broke the back of ISIS counter-offensives. The F-16 was the rapid response force, the celestial cavalry that arrived just as the line was about to break, turning certain defeat into a rallying cry for the forces on the ground. But for the ISIS fighters on the ground, there was no sound more terrifying, no psychological weapon more potent, than the low, guttural growl of the A-10 Thunderbolt II. The Warthog was an ugly, titanium-bathed relic of the Cold War, designed to kill Soviet tanks. But in the deserts of Iraq and Syria, it found a new calling as the Grim Reaper of the terrorist army. Unlike the high-flying F-22s or the sleek F-16s, the A-10 flew low and slow, its pilots often able to see the enemy with the naked eye. The aircraft was built around the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm Gatling gun the size of a Volkswagen, capable of spewing depleted uranium shells at a rate of 3,900 rounds per minute. When the A-10 dove on a target, an ISIS convoy of Toyota Hilux Technicals, a VBID, Vehicle-Borne Improvised Explosive Device, factory, or a dug-in mortar team, the sound of the gun firing arrived seconds after the rounds had already impacted, a BARRRD that ripped the air like canvas tearing. The psychological effect was devastating. Intercepted radio chatter from ISIS fighters revealed a profound panic whenever the Warthogs were overhead. They knew that the A-10 could linger, circling like a vulture, its armor plating shrugging off small arms fire as it meticulously picked apart their formations. The Warthog didn't just kill targets, it erased them, turning the pride of the ISIS vehicle fleet into burning husks of twisted metal on the road to Mosul. The success of the air campaign was driven by the evolution of the weaponry itself, a technological leap that allowed for a volume of fire previously unimaginable with such low collateral damage. The introduction of the GBU-39 small-diameter bomb SDB revolutionized the sortie efficiency of the coalition jets. In previous wars, an aircraft might carry 2 or 4 large bombs. With the SDB, a single F-15E could carry a rack of dozens. These 250-pound glide bombs, equipped with diamondback wings that deployed after release, could travel over 40 miles to their target, allowing the jets to strike multiple aim points in a single pass. A single Strike Eagle could neutralize an entire ISIS compound, taking out a command building, a parked vehicle, a weapons cache, and a guard post, all with individual, distinct munitions dropped seconds apart. This swarm capability overwhelmed ISIS's ability to disperse and hide. They could no longer rely on the safety of small, scattered teams, because the coalition aircraft had enough ammo to target them all individually. The precision was absolute. Pilots watched on their targeting pods as the munitions entered through windows or ventilation shafts, ensuring that the destruction was confined to the enemy while the building next door remained standing, a testament to the moral and tactical imperative of the operation. The logistics of the operation were a war within a war, a relentless conveyor belt of fuel and steel that kept the jets in the air. The KC-135 Stratotankers and KC-10 extenders flew in massive along the borders, the unsung heroes that acted as gas stations in the sky. Fighters would launch, burn their fuel getting to the battle space, tank up again, and fight some more. A single mission for an F-22 or F-15E might last 8 hours or more, requiring multiple fueling. A high-stress disconnect or a mechanical failure meant ejecting over enemy territory. The maintenance crews on the ground, working in the searing heat of Al Udeid or Al Dhafra air bases, turned the jets around in record time, loading thousands of pounds of JDAMs and Hellfires, troubleshooting avionics, and patching up minor battle damage. It was a rhythm of exhaustion and adrenaline, driven by the knowledge that every sortie not flown gave ISIS a chance to regroup. The air pain was a relentless pressure, a suffocation of the enemy's ability to move, communicate, or rest. ISIS commanders who once broadcasted their speeches on social media were forced into the shadows, moving only at night, in single vehicles, terrified of the invisible eyes above. By 2016, the tide had irrevocably turned. The air power had shaped the battlefield for the liberation of the major cities. In the battle for Manbij and later Raqqa, the coordination between the air and the ground reached a zenith of lethality. The F-22 Raptors, using their sensor fusion, identified the electronic signatures of ISIS defensive networks, locating in communication nodes, and jamming their attempts to coordinate attacks. The Raptors then passed this targeting data via data link to the F-15Es and A-10s, which rolled in to deliver the kinetic blow. It was a symphony of destruction conducted from 40,000 feet. The ISIS fighters, once so bold in their open convoys, were now rats trapped in a burning cage. They tried to use the smoke of burning oil trenches to obscure the vision of the targeting pods, but the coalition adapted. Using GPS-guided munitions, didn't need to see the target to hit it. They tried to use tunnel networks, but the jets dropped bunker busters, delayed fuse bombs that punched through concrete and earth before detonating deep underground, collapsing the tunnels on the fighters hiding within. The physical caliphate was being deconstructed, block by block, bunker by bunker. The endgame was played out in the dusty plains of Baghouz in 2019, the final stand of the terror group that had once threatened to engulf the Middle East. By this point, the ISIS territory had shrunk from the size of Great Britain to a pitiful tent city on the banks of the Euphrates. The air above was crowded with coalition aircraft, a stack of stacked assets waiting for the final clearance. The F-15Es and F-16s circled, their pilots looking down at the last gasp of a monstrous ideology. The airstrikes here, methodical, designed to support the Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF) as they pushed through the minefields and booby traps. The sheer volume of ordnance dropped during the campaign was staggering tens of thousands of precision-guided munitions. But it was the utility of the F-22 that remained the crowning achievement of the air war. The Raptor had proven that stealth was not just about hiding. It was about seeing everything while remaining unseen, about managing the chaos of war with a godlike perspective. The F-22 had flown into the heart of the most complex air defense environment on Earth and operated with impunity, validating billions of dollars in development and decades of engineering theory. As the black flag of ISIS was finally lowered, trampled into the dust of Baghouz, the silence returned to the skies, but it was a different silence than the one in 2014. It was the silence of a mission accomplished, of a threat neutralized not by the crude bludgeon of carpet bombing, but by the sharp, relentless scalpel of modern air power. Operation Inherent Resolve had demonstrated a new paradigm of warfare, where the integration of intelligence, surveillance, and precision strike capability could dismantle a state-like entity without the commitment of massive ground armies. The F-15E had broken their industry, the A-10 had broken their spirit, the F-16 had protected the liberators, and the F-22 had watched over it all, the unseen architect of the victory. The jets returned to their bases, their afterburners cooling, their mission logs closed, leaving behind a history written in the shattered concrete of command centers and the liberated streets of cities that had once been prisons. The world had seen the face of modern evil, and in response, it had sent the most terrifyingly capable machines ever built to erase it from the earth.